And welcome back to the LEC. I'm Drakos. This is Froskurinn, and between us right now is none other than the top laner for Fnatic, Bwipo. Bwipo, welcome. How's it going, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Losing the, or almost losing the last game was a bit rough, but we pulled through.
Oh yeah, Cho'Gath's big pick. Bwipo, I didn't know that we were doing Euphoria today. Like
we are. We're just it's just the intro plan. For context, for anyone wondering, Bwipo's going to be joining us for picks and bans as well as the early game. We would let him come for the whole game, but he does technically also have to play tomorrow, so probably give you some room to rest as well. However, yeah,
I wouldn't mind, but hey, here we are.
What
if you want to stay
tomorrow? Maybe we'll figure it out.
Really?
One game at a time. One game at a time.
Why not?
So I guess first questions are: is it's G2 versus Origen? Bwipo, coming onto like the brand new patch, what have you guys felt with like the meta? Are there any picks that you think have kind of risen up in priority that you think will be important for this draft?
I think most of the things are like teams that have individually figured out like we actually like this a lot or we don't like this as much. So the meta has shifted a little bit, but not necessarily what you would expect. It's more like some teams have lower priority on certain picks, other have higher priority on newer picks. Like Pantheon support showed up for Mad Lions just now. That was able to be pulled out thanks to more practice on the same patch.
Bwipo, I thought that we were going to see a lot more Karthus. I really want to see the Karthus flex. Is that hiding around, or have teams just completely moved away from it? Because Xerxe was one of our big Karthus players.
Well, if anything, if Karthus shows up, I'm sure OG will dabble in the Karthus jungle. But I think that solo laners and bot laners haven't really had the opportunity to really commit to playing Karthus because he's such a unique champion. It's similar to Sion in a way where you play him in the lane. You actually have to use his passive to get the most out of him. And dying isn't exactly something professional players want to do, unlike some individuals, perhaps.
So someone not necessarily
certain individuals. Wow, I didn't read that Cho'Gath passive worked that way, but I guess different.
I've got a new champion for you, Bwipo. I think you could really maximize Kog'Maw.
Yeah,
I think that is the champ for you.
Anyway.
You know what? I'll look into it.
Trash talk aside, really quick, I just want to let you guys go. You know, we got pro player, we got an analyst here. I want you guys to talk about the draft, but all I want to hear is set me some expectations on what you expect to see in the draft, and when we see both team comps, tell me what the team compositions are going to do. Go now, analysts, you may be free.
Okay, so Bwipo, looking at these bans, I see that the Volibear made it through. That's what I expect to be the priority pick. I've heard from a lot of I've heard from a lot of LEC pros that he's just like unbeatable in the jungle. As a top laner, when you see a Volibear, what goes through your mind?
I think Volibear right now is like a huge juggernaut of a champion, and I'm not saying that he plays like a juggernaut, even though he does. It's more the fact that when he's picked in the early game, this champion dominates levels 1 to like 9, 10, 11. Like no one can contest him. It's almost impossible. His base damages to combine with his reliable CC creates a situation where no matter what, you can get ganked by him from the jungle, or if you're laning against him, he's just going to run you over.
What do you think are some of the options into a Volibear that Xerxe can look for? I mean, if you can't duel him, do you just try to find something that can potentially scale as hard as him? Or are you looking at just trying to snowball through a lane, or?
So I would say that you can either pick like a really strong jungler, Olaf shows up here and there. Olaf obviously is strong enough to be able to contest him with permission to fight against him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Xerxe tries to opt into perhaps something more of the peel in the late game, like a Drakos, like you like, or maybe just hyper-scaling Karthus.
Maybe just a higher. You're teasing us, Bwipo. We want to see it ultimately. So we have the response here. We have the Senna and the Orianna.
Right.
Crap, I kind of wish you were playing for a different team, because I imagine that you guys have a lot of Senna pairings up your sleeve. But is there more than in scrims maybe than Senna Braum, Senna Wukong? How deep does the Senna lane pairings go right now, Bwipo?
How deep, I'm not sure. I think it can go much deeper than what lanes are experiencing right now, but it also comes from the fact that a lot of these champions are unique, right? Like, for example, Malphite, Kench, these are relatively simple, but I've been thinking of multiple Senna combos that Illy can try, and I'm trying to push him into that direction.
Okay, so now you have the rotation of the AP Kog'Maw. We assume that that's going to be Caps' Kog'Maw. Technically still a flex pick, as well as the Nautilus being picked up for Mikyx here. So as far as Kog'Maw AP goes, do you think that now you just have to rush and try to find some hard engage? Like, as you look at Origen, wow, they have Jactroll and they still pick Tahm Kench.
Well, not Tahm Kench, Kog'Maw, that's for sure. That's a worrying trend right there.
Yeah.
I am a little bit concerned. How do you deal with the Kog'Maw, especially Caps' Kog'Maw?
Well, Malphite's always nice. Jokes aside, Gangplankton has a good pick into Kog'Maw. Anything that has a button that can be priced on Kog'Maw, regardless of where Kog'Maw is on the map, is something that you're looking forward to, right? So Gangplank is something a huge pick for Alphari, obviously. So I would look to see G2 banning this out. But if they don't, like, you're looking at Wukong, Malphite, in the jungle, Set, Gragas, then the GP ban.
Yep.
And I like the GP ban. Alphari, obviously a very proficient GP player. And Bwipo, you talked about it. I feel like you're the pioneer of the Malphite, but also just in general, we've seen when Aphelios was dominant, it was so much about innovating top lane picks that could shut down immobile carries. GP's certainly one of those. Maybe G2 Esports follow with the Malphite ban. I don't know. What else do you feel like can really shut down these immobile carries from what we can see in the top lane?
Wukong obviously is quite reliable.
I feel like
other than that, though, it's pretty difficult.
I feel like they're forcing Perkz onto an Ashe as kind of one of the few ADCs that went through, and so I feel like Alphari is being set up to grab a Malphite and dissuade a potential Ashe pick. Because if Perkz goes Ashe here and Caps is on Kog'Maw, you can get so much bang for your buck if Alphari has a good Malphite ult.
I mean, obviously, like, Malphite would be a great pick. So what Wunder has to be looking for is blind picking a champion that Malphite really doesn't want to land against.
Options are there. Looks like we might see Trundle in the jungle coming in for Xerxe. Ooh,
well, that's another hard engage champion.
Okay, so obviously, going to, and Bwipo, you can jump in here as well. Going Trundle, you can maybe try to tear down Nautilus and Volibear a little bit, get really tanky and kind of help with the control with the Orianna and the Trundle pillar. But like Bwipo talked about before, the backline dive reach of having a Jarvan, and then maybe if the Malphite goes on top of it, there's the Ashe that we were alluding to with all of the ADCs being banned out. Just even looking at these last few picks, Bwipo, if you're Alphari, what do you say? Like, what is the champion that he needs to grab here?
Well, I mean, Malphite's always looking great, but for example, Kennen, not necessarily a great lane from Malphite. I do think in this particular game that you can just handshake the matchup. It's not that bad. So you're just looking for like Wukong, Malphite, maybe something else on the sleeve. I know Alphari enjoys using the counter pick as much as he can, but we'll see what he pulls out. Like, again, I looked up into Malphite here, just, you know, laning phase not so great, but you know what? I managed to brief my laning phase win again my laning phase, so I'm sure Alphari can too.
Bwipo calling it. Looks like Alphari's hovering, and he will lock it in. He is a man of the people. He is a man of the team. He is not going to take the counter pick. He's a workhorse.
All right, so let's talk about team compositions here.
Sorry, got ahead of you there.
No, you're good, you're good. I was like, yeah, let's talk about team compositions. Bwipo, I feel like it's very easy for me to look at OG and see what they want to do. They got a lot of nice team fighting tools, but talk to me about G2 Esports. What can we expect kind of early to mid game?
So for G2, it's really important to make sure that Perkz is able to hold on to the summoner's spell. Whenever they're going to go into a big team fight, they're going to have to need Kog'Maw to have his flash up, as well as Ashe, ideally, as well as Kennen. If all those flashes are up, it would be able to use Kog'Maw's and Ashe's flash defensively, and then reinitiate with a Kennen flash.
There's a lot of conversation that's happening in the world right now, Bwipo, of just teams hard winning draft. Looking at this, who won draft?
It will be execution based in my opinion, because the Kog'Maw mid value will heavily depend on how Xerxe and Alphari can attack Kog'Maw, because they're not able to slow down Kog'Maw in this game. Senna, Tahm, Kench, and Orianna will suffer to a different level. Like, Kog'Maw will absolutely demolish them.
Okay, you heard it from Bwipo. Let's go!
Here we go, G2 versus OG. Play the sweet music.
Okay, on the way.
All right, we are just having Bwipo refresh his connection briefly, so he may be disconnected for just a few moments. We are entering the game. You heard from Bwipo.
Yes, I do.
Oh, you're back,
That was
Bwipo?
quick.
Oh, hello.
Hello, welcome back. All right, here we are in the early game. Bwipo, you said right before we went to toss away to that wonderful intro that flashes are hugely important. Caps, Perkz, Wunder all need their flashes if they want to pull out in a team fight. So for OG, is it as simple as taking these flashes away and making sure that you have flashless opponents moving into a team fight? What do you expect from OG in the early game?
I wouldn't say it's that simple. That's what we're looking forward later on in the game. In the early stages, Jarvan's going to try to make sure that Orianna can have some power in the lane and Malphite survives.
So do you think
I don't
that's
think attacking the bottom lane.
do Do you think that's an early gank on mid lane then to try to see, like, at what point do you have to get Kog'Maw's flash out so that Nukeduck can actually have priority in this lane to empower Xerxe? Do you think he's like buff gank?
I mean, as early as possible would be ideal. However, the big issue that you're running into here is how strong Volibear really is in the early game. If Jarvan falls behind a little bit or too much, Volibear is going to be able to do all the work, get all undone, if that makes sense.
Yep. So walk me then through the top lane. Do you expect there to be any sort of jungle intervention, or is this going to be Malphite buckles himself up until he finds a nice little teleport access for his ultimate and just kind of chills for a minute?
Well, right now, Wunder opted into going Doran's Blade instead of Doran's Shield, which means that Malphite's Q spam throws seismic shards left and right with comment, and eventually Kennen will get too low to a point where he can't crash waves anymore or can't stop Malphite from crashing the wave, which means that Volibear is going to look to stop that from happening and gank Malphite before he gets to spam his Q over and over again, with Kennen creating a huge slow push, for example. Right now we're looking at a potential level 3 dive. Volibear is going to finish his blue buff after doing the wolves and start pathing at the top with this third wave coming in soon.
Would you say if this dive doesn't work on the Doran's Blade buy, that's just a mistake from Wunder? At what point do you think that this is like stylistic choice versus an incorrect itemization?
I would say, honestly, like, if he crashes this third wave, he can just opt into recalling if Volibear doesn't want to be top here. And Volibear ended up doing 5 camps before coming top, so I don't think there's actually a dive going to be happening, which is, in my opinion, a missed opportunity here. But perhaps they're just gonna go for it, because it looks like he is pathing into the top side.
Does manage to pick up the blue buff, of course. Will give him back the mana that he needs to pull this dive off. Wunder losing a decent amount of HP as predicted from the seismic shard spam, and Xerxe's in the area, but he's definitely not going to win out of the 1v1. A quick payoff to the bottom lane. His upset's now going to be in trouble. Perkz trying to fire back a little bit, but Mikyx slowed up. 2 stacks going to connect. Will not find the third, and have to look at that top side. The dive may be happening, and this would be a very unfortunate recall timing. Xerxe just keeps channel it, just trying to make sure.
Do you think, Bwipo, there's risk of the teleports coming in? Because obviously you have a TP advantage to Origen, but if you pull the teleport on Upset and Nukeduck and you're just there using defensive teleports, you can just massively screw up someone's lane phase.
Right, so I think in this particular situation, they're just happy with the way it went. They made sure that Xerxe couldn't gank Wunder, and he just got his waves in. He's going to get his recall eventually. Right now, he's channeling his recall. He's going to walk back with no magic mantle to try and slow down that seismic charge spam. However, again, I do believe that level 3 there was a gank opportunity when Alphari is level 2, quite low. His passive might not have been up. Volibear's base damage at level 3 is disturbingly high. And this was, to be honest, I think a missed opportunity, poor communication from G2. I think that was a free dive, and they ended up sending Jankos into the top side after doing his 5 camp clear. And whilst that was happening, didn't end up diving him.
Do you think it's really important that G2 execute on opportunities like that in the early game, or do you think that they have enough scaling tools, or their composition has the proper tools to answer what Origen's comp will also evolve into?
Well, assuming, considering the fact that Jankos did end up going there and create some pressure by making sure that they spotted Xerxe, they did see him take his crowd, and that way there's a little bit of relief on the other side of the map. Kog'Maw's feeling a little bit more free, isn't so worried about getting EQ flashed or anything nasty, so in the end it was still alright, and I think for their overall game plan it was still good to be there. So I wouldn't say it's a disaster, it's just, again, I think in my opinion, you could have found that ahead of time, knowing that the Malphite will have to spend Q to lane you, which means that he has to put himself in a position where he has to trade you.
And here now, of course, we see Kog'Maw using the teleport into mid lane. Caps just trying to get that early tier buy and reset here, pressure out, and I imagine we'll see Nukeduck mirror the option, depending on how quickly Caps can crash this wave. But so far, kind of a slow and steady game. You talked about the one missed opportunity, top Bwipo, but I mean, at level 6 is the thing that we always talk about as caster, is the point where maybe it starts to get explosive. We get the Malphite all, we get the Kennen all. Is that what we're waiting on?
Wait. Before we even get to that point, I want to ask Bwipo some itemization questions specifically about this matchup. Is there a breaking point in terms of like completed items, or which back, first or second, where Kennen can really start to abuse this lane before Malphite starts bulking up?
Well, the thing is that honestly, in this type of matchup, Kennen... Oh, there's a gank.
Hold that thought. Slow going to come in. The follow up there on the Storm. Wunder got good follow up damage. Alphari now in trouble. The stun connects. Jankos will flash out just in time. First blood secured for G2.
Dirty damage. Continue, Bwipo.
That's the Volibear base damage. You can see that he's being level 5. It's still quite high. However, in this particular matchup, let's look at this play first. So obviously, Volibear with the blue spine just runs in there. Look at the E damage is really what you're looking at. 11% max HP damage on top of like 50 pace is feeling like 150 when press the attack proc.
I mean, the sentiment that I've seen kicked around a lot with Volibear is that he just sprints at you, and no matter, even if he kills you, he'll probably take 80% of your HP.
It's pretty nasty, and if you're not able to kill him in time, another application of his W heals him up.
Yeah. Heals him up, does extra damage. A nightmare to stay in combat against, a nightmare to get initially bursted down by. Volibear looking like a wholesome champion. That's what we'll say. Wholesome champion.
I mean, he's very strong early game, and he does fall off. Now, hold that thought. Wait, there's a teleport. I can't explain top lane again.
You've got time until they start hitting each other.
Teleport. So in this matchup, from the Kennen side, I actually personally believe that itemizing something like a Hextech Gunblade, looking at Bilgewater Combos from lifesteal and survive through Malphite's poke is quite interesting. So Wunder doesn't actually opt into that, and he's going to try and kill him. Just picking up the revolvers from extra early game damage and potentially look to punish the fact that he has no flash and he has flash advantage.
Do you think that this is a weak point then that G2 can continue to try to punish now that Alphari doesn't have flash and TP, or do you think now that he has access to the unstoppable force that it's almost kind of wasted time to attempt to gank Malphite on a lane that he can cover in a single ultimate? Like, is this where G2 will start switching up strategies and focusing more around the bot lane in particular?
I think it's still worth having a look at the lanes on Malphite's side. Kennen still has to catch up with the ultimate, has the lightning rush. It's not impossible. Wolves Perkz flashes away from the tongue lash. So OG used spellbook teleport from Jactroll coming out to get the base advantage on Jactroll, froze the wave, and has still been freezing the wave.
Oh, Jankos on the way down. Jactroll taking a lot of damage. Thick Skin obviously going to heal him up, but Xerxe forced to retreat on that one, flagging Dragon over the wall, and G2 setting up for a pretty nice recall here.
A lot of this game we've been asking questions kind of from the G2 perspective, and I'm sure you've heard it, Bwipo, this sentiment that Origen are a slow team, not necessarily the most proactive, that they don't kind of maximize when they have tempo on the map of taking opportunities or advantages that could be given to them. How do you read kind of their initial jungle clear or pathing right now? Because you have a jungler like Jarvan, and Alphari's kind of getting a bit bodied up into the top side of the map. Like, is this just par for the course of what Origen have drafted, or do you think that this is more of a play style issue from them?
So I think it's kind of the Volibear effect. And what I mean by that is that if Jarvan tries to be too proactive in the early game and there's a lot of summoners being blown, flushing from, trying to get a kill, flushing away from ganks, Volibear is going to be able to make use of that. As you saw, Alphari had flash there and he had basically no counterplay to Volibear just smashing him. So Jarvan didn't want to make the game too exciting. However, now, especially with Dragon spawning, Rift Herald being on the map, you're going to be looking to attack some of the summoner spells from Kog'Maw and Ashe. Now having no flash on Ashe, Cataclysm is going to be a huge threat for Perkz.
Interesting, something definitely to track, of course. See where the players are going to come through. For now, Jankos feeling pretty confident to start up this Herald. We'll do it in vision on the control ward here. And of course, OG are on the top side of the map. They could match, but it doesn't look like they really want to take this fight. Instead of focusing on the waves here, as Malphite will crash one in on the bottom side. And G2 are going to get the first objective of the game relatively uncontested here.
Is Bwipo still there?
Yeah, I am. And it's
perfect.
Surprising. OG was still on the top side of the map, and somehow, even though their bot lane was first, they didn't actually manage to take control over the wave.
To me, it almost felt that Origen were trying to either they got called on trying to trade map where they were trying to force tempo on their side and maybe get control over a Herald take potentially, or that they were actually just trying to avoid the fact that Perkz has access to arrow, but they do have a Tahm Kench, so I don't think they have to worry so much about the kill pressure there. But also, Origen historically aren't really a team about Rift Heralds. And kind of talking with them, they put much higher priority on dragons than a Herald, and kind of the idea that like you only get one chance at the dragon. If you get early fight for a soul or get soul really early, they feel confident in their team fighting. Whereas Herald, if it's only there to snowball gold into a lane through plates or opening access to the map, if you're planning on winning the game, you're planning on taking those towers anyway, is kind of the theory.
And I don't disagree with that theory, but when you're going to swap up your bot lane to the top side first, so you make the initial swap, I feel like it's kind of on you to make sure that you're pressing a little bit of pressure on the Herald at least. Unfortunately, in this case, they didn't even bother defending the Herald. And even though Jarvan was top side, that just created a situation where they don't even get the Dragon to trade at all. If you're not intending to take the Herald, then please just stay bottom side, take your plates, take your Dragon, and trade the map.
At this game state, how dire of a situation is it for Origen? Because they lost Dragon, they've lost Herald right now. They're also going to be behind this mid lane play. Like, is this a big whoopsie?
Ugh.
Small whoopsie?
That was a small whoopsie. That was a small whoopsie. Their Herald was maybe a little bit bigger of a whoopsie. But I wouldn't say that it's that big of a deal. Like I said, execution will be a huge deal. Cataclysm, Unstoppable Force, Shockwave. Like, there's a lot of tools still in the game. And as long as I can get Kog'Maw's flash and then repeat before the game is lost, ideally, there's always a chance to get that big team fight win.
Okay, I then have one final question before we let you go, Bwipo. Is it just your confidence then on the champions that Origen have selected here, that with the scaling potential of like a Senna, how their comp plays out?
We'll hold that thought, because apparently we're going to have a big game-defining play here. We'll see what the breakdown is after this, and that's going to be Perkz on the backside, getting knocked low. The heal not nearly enough, and now Wunder comes in, but he might be too little too late. Just has to flash out to safety. Volibear alting away, and OG showing up just in time. Bwipo, is that what you were waiting for?
Well, Perkz had no flash, and as you can see, it was the whole 5 minutes. After 4 total minutes, they struck, and that's exactly what you're going to be looking forward to in this game with Caps' flash as well as Perkz' flash. Even if he burns it, you've got 5 whole minutes to look for that opportunity.
All right, Bwipo, final question before we let you go for the evening to prep for the games ahead of you. Who takes it from this game state? 12 minutes, 50 seconds and counting. What is your prediction for the end of the game here?
I'm going to have to say G2. Caps' Kog'Maw is something else, and so far he's not been slowed down one bit.
Absolutely hasn't. All right. Thank you so much, Bwipo, for sharing your insight with us. So we hope to have you back soon here on the caster desk. In the meantime, good luck with your games tomorrow, and Frosk and I will continue from here.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoy the cast and have a wonderful day.
Bye, Bwipo.
Bye.
Bye.
I miss him already.
I know, me too.
It was Christmas.
It was Christmas. He had so much to say.
It's nice. When Bwipo is on any sort of piece of content, you just kind of lean back, cruise control.
Relax.
Oh, wait, we're
just
going
like
fast.
Upset was doing there as he got hit in the face by that Ashe arrow. And now the Tahm Kench is going to come in. He's just going to gobble him right up. Oh, never mind. Jactroll caught in enemy territory, getting pulled away. And so one thing that we took a step away from Froskurinn is kind of talking about the bigger picture story of both these teams, because I think we didn't need to know what Bwipo thought of the Jactroll swap, right? We want to know what Bwipo thought of the game and the game state. But one of the big things that we do want to talk about, now that Bwipo's expert insight isn't here anymore, he set some expectations for us, is this Jactroll swap and what we're actually doing here, because Destiny played Tahm Kench. Why is Jactroll here playing Tahm Kench? What's your thoughts on this, Froskurinn?
I want to hold it for a second, though, because we potentially have a dive. Oh, no. Orianna's also roaming down. I can't. They're going to pull the trigger.
All right, here we go. Nukeduck looking for the setup. The Wombo combo potential is there. Jarvan.
Oh, that was the Nukeduck
the delivery
special.
driver. Orianna, she's serving up hot, delicious food. G2, they want an order of it. Jarvan's going to deliver it to them. That's how this game's going to work out.
Okay, so I'm really glad that you bring up the Tahm Kench, because I do not think that the trade for Destiny to Jactroll was necessarily about who can play Tahm Kench better. Maybe an unpopular opinion, Destiny doesn't play that many champions. He's a very small champion pool. And I say that because I watched him play like one champion the entire split. And by bringing Jactroll onto the roster, I don't even care what like the execution of the champion is. Suddenly you have much bigger options that you can play with in draft. And we just heard it from Kaiser in the interview previously. You know, so many teams are hamstrung because they don't play the right champions, and thus they cannot draft effectively. Destiny was a huge issue in that regard from the tape that I saw of him playing on the Rift. So I think just from that, it's a straight upgrade. That said, then drafting a Tahm Kench, as Bwipo put it, I don't know about that one.
And potentially we'll get to shine a further light into the Jactroll swap here as Gyoto will be on PGL tonight with Shocks and additional company, talking about Origen's playstyle. We've had him there before. It might be Ender. They might fight again, guys. We love it.
It's a cage match,
It's always
actually.
a cage match. So much fun. Regardless, for now, OG keeping things pretty much dead even. Got a small gold lead, nothing too significant in exchange for G2's Dragon lead, but the Wombo comp here on the side of OG. Clear expectations set on the side of G2, though. They want to kick things off before the Wombo can come together. Kog'Maw layering down some damage there on the backside. Jactroll now locked up, but he goes gold, and Jankos going to be in trouble. Shockwave coming over the wall from Nukeduck is nice, but now Wunder's on the way, and he has no flash, and still He's gonna lock up, find 1 kill back in exchange. Perkz, though, now the one in trouble. Oh, this is the nightmare of every AD carry. He doesn't have a support. He's just gonna get walked down by the Malphite. Oh, and the emote BM to follow up. I love it.
Hit him with the penguin. Yeah, Ashe into Malphite. That's never gonna be a fun time. We talked about how Alphari, well, Bwipo talks about how Alphari was not gonna have fun in the lane phase, but would get his revenge in team fights. Speaking of revenge, here's Upset and Xerxe. Seeing if they can lock down Wunder. No flash on Kennen.
Look at his revenge in a side lane as well. Notice that Upset is just staying very far back. Does not want to get caught out in the ultimate here. Still, Wunder's going to leap forward. He's got good damage. He clears the entire creep wave. If he's got a little bit more, not enough. Healing up there with the piercing darkness from Upset means he will walk away. So 2 very good picks coming in from the side of OG.
But it doesn't translate necessarily into any sort of objective on the map. It's just the kill gold sitting in the pockets. It's not like they force a tower off of that. And you can see that that means that G2 have earlier resets and first access to this dragon.
It's also important to note Cap sticking over to level 12. Of course, every point you put in the Kog'Maw ultimate increases its effective range. So you go from poking from a short range to poking from a ludicrously long range by level 16. So while OG certainly can pull the trigger, can get in close, and can make those ults do work, it is going to get harder and harder as Caps gets more and more range in this game.
I do find it very cute how Mikyx is now the support to Caps and not to Perkz. Perkz has been solo laning as Ashe for quite a while right now down in that bot lane, and he doesn't have flash. And Bwipo talked about how important flashes are for G2's composition because Origen have so many tools to punish with their dive access, the Malphite ultimate, the Jarvan ultimate, things like that. So while the dragon falling down means that there's not a real reason or a coliseum that Perkz can be punished for that flash, it's always going to be something that we're constantly checking in on.
And I think really good that you point that out, because last time we saw Caps play the Kog'Maw mid, he had Mikyx on Tahm Kench to kind of bail him out. And you look at the Ashe and you look at the Kog'Maw, and both of these champions would frickin' love to have a Tahm Kench in this game. But because they have Nautilus,
takeaway,
a champion who goes in, and Tahm Kench is so... has been nerfed so many times that it's rare that I think of him as a strong champion. But what we've seen is when he's paired with the Kog'Maw mid, he makes this pick unstoppable. So the fact that OG took that away, the fact that G2 now have to rely on a Nautilus, potentially a Kennen for their peel, makes this game so much harder for Perkz and Caps specifically.
Can't necessarily remember. I'd have to go back to the draft to see who was picked first, Nautilus or Kench. I have a feeling that Nautilus was picked first.
It was. Going through there, pulling back though. Now moving from Wunder, though he's been exhausted. He's going to be able to stun a few members, but now he's isolated, does not have the Zanyas. The pullback is clean from Nukeduck, and Alphari's now on a rampage. Caps has been comfortable in this game. Perkz gets to farm on a side lane, but in the meantime, OG are just routing G2 in fight after fight. 29k to 31.6.
Oh, Perkz, is he going to get out?
Oh, that's the ward. The denial on the recall. Oh, here comes Alphari. Shamrock, no 4-leaf clover for Perkz today. That is just plain unlucky.
You saw the fear in his eyes immediately. He pushed the wave, and then he was like, do I have time to run back to the tower? I'll never make it. He sets his back, and he's just praying. He's like, 9, 8, 7.
No. Yeah. Oh, Mikyx gonna flash forward. We'll get Nukeduck's flash, but I don't think too consequential. We'll allow them to break mid lane tower. But OG, and specifically Alphari, kind of having a field day this game. After that early Kennen lane phase, I like that Bwipo pointed out. He's like, hey, Malphite's fine with this lane. Because as someone who looks at that range advantage, I assume that Kennen's just gonna smash. But we're seeing here now in the mid game, Malphite is absolutely taking over, and Jankos is, well, he's invested in some property here in the OG jungle, but oof, rough neighborhood. Not where he wanted to be.
Those are not the returns that he was looking for on that property. Yeah, it's not great. Perkz still without flash, so needs to be careful. Oh, no.
Mikyx is going to get caught out and taken down here. Upset on a killing spree.
It was
G2 looking lost.
There was moments where I was like watching bot lane because I was like, I'm sure Mikyx just walks this one out. Did not walk this one out. That's actually 2 really crucial picks of just kind of question marks. Now, looking back at the initial replay, good TP setup initially from Wunder, but Alphari with kind of the drive-by, last hit Q, all me. And then the Senna ultimate to find Perkz' channel to allow Alphari to style on him.
This Upset. Oh, the fadeaway. Oh, it's so clean. Boom. Bing, bang, boom. And done. That's the sound effects replay for the day. Brought to you by me. Wow. Brutal.
Wrecked.
Yep. Savage 2. Why not? This one is... I like how the second we let Bwipo go, the game goes from dead even, super close to
super swung in Origen's
just like
favor.
instant OG win.
Okay, we can check in on items because it's actually important things. Number 1, the Banshee Veil being completed for Nukeduck.
Huge.
Why is that important, you may ask? Well, because you are against an Ashe as well as a Nautilus. That said, Caps can pop that very effectively. If we've seen Caps do anything impressive on this Kog'Maw, it's the fact that this guy's like a sniper and you can't get away from him. Yeah. He is so pinpoint accuracy on this Kog'Maw. I've never seen someone look so powerful with what should be a budget Xerxe.
No, Xerxe is definitely budget Kog'Maw, especially when we get close to 16. Once Caps hits 16, he's going to be raining hell from the skies.
It's just a nightmare.
He is, and Jankos sadly doesn't know that he's stuck on a bush here. He's going to try to zoom his way to safety. We'll use the ult and the unstoppable effective grants to
he knew
escape.
about the bush. It was the ward that was really the issue there.
That's true. Okay,
okay,
fine. Just it's whatever. All right, I didn't do that to you when you mess up your random words. What do you call Origen again? Should we go back for that one?
Please no.
Anyway, gold lead you can see here. Upset and Nukeduck leading the way. And I think this is really important, Froskurinn, because you heard Ender absolutely eviscerate Nukeduck at the start of the day. And obviously it was a segment that was like fun, trash talky, whatever. But Nukeduck has been struggling, and this has been a pretty solid game from Nukeduck. He's been everywhere he's needed to be. He's performing on the Orianna, and that's something that you want to see if you're an OG fan, because they've repeatedly invested in this guy.
I mean, congratulations for surviving the tier Kog'Maw lane phase. I will give credit that, yes, Nukeduck has had some rough games, and this game hasn't looked rough, but I also don't think that he had, the hardest matchup imaginable.
All right, that's a fair point.
I want to see a team fight with a nice shockwave, and then I'm all aboard the year of the duck.
It's just, okay, we're not going that far. Calm down, one game isn't just to put us right back on the train.
I don't know what you want.
I was just curious.
We took a tower, we've taken a dragon. Origen now feeling really confident, starting to again slap G2 around with some of their wallets. They have good item breakpoints right now. They're kind of strong right in this moment.
2 items on Senna. Alphari, a good ultimate, can wipe most of G2. Obviously building full tank stats, but still Malphite base damage is quite high. Perkz going to be the one in trouble, but still Alphari not willing to pull the trigger here, setting his sights on the tier 1 tower instead. That opens up more space for OG to play with, however, and will make further picks easier.
Now, this sounds really obvious, but you can also hear it when you listen in on team comms. When you're against a Malphite and an Orianna, you have to make sure that you're spread out. You can never bundle up together, because as soon as you do, you're going to get eviscerated. So I guarantee that in team fights, when we're setting up around these Barons and these Dragons, you just have to watch G2 and make sure that they're keeping a sizable social distancing. We are practicing safely on the Rift today, or a shockwave.
All led to this, Froskurinn. These
They've
months
been
of
training
quarantine,
this for months.
this time spent apart from each other has led to this moment. Oh man. And it's certainly going to be difficult, because OG have complete control of the river right now. We're 23 minutes into the game, and OG definitely don't have a great Baron. Senna not necessarily the greatest. Orianna pretty solid as far as mid laner goes. The sustained damage from the auto attacks, but it is something that they can do, and it is an area that G2 are going to have to push into and potentially contest vision for. Will make it quite difficult. Caps gives them a bit of free vision, but Jankos now getting aggressive here, throwing down just a little bit of poke, a little bit of damage as G2 will clear out some of the wards.
Can't kill that Tahm Kench. He's a very beefy boy right now, especially if Upset's anywhere near him. I just find the most obnoxious thing about Senna is that, again, you just can't kill her. She's just the anti-fun champion.
It's like a Nami Q that's annoying even after the lane phase.
Origen are actually
or Nami W, sorry.
doing a really great job contesting this vision here, constantly grouping up together. Alphari does have teleport, so he can be there for his team if he needs to be. And you can also see that Wunder will have initial first access because he's pushed up earlier.
And one of the things that I want to keep my eyes on, Froskurinn, as we get later, and especially as Caps gets more levels under his belt, level 14 now on the way to 16, is one of the things I think that makes Kog'Maw so oppressive is when you set up these lines of scrimmage and you're kind of walking around an objective, but no one wants to start it. That's when Kog'Maw like reigns supreme. He gets to poke for free without really having to commit. Yes, Bwipo, you did experience your first Casher Curse. Of course, we'll have to find out. Certainly thought that your team lost in the game that they ended up winning, so
we'll
you never know.
G2 pull a Fnatic. No, but kind of this idea that you're going to, like when Kog'Maw gets time to poke at you, he can be so devastating. And Origen are a team that have been so indecisive. Like if one word is about them, they're indecisive. But when you give Alphari the power of a Malphite ultimate, there is nothing indecisive about that. That is a giant go button.
Yeah, and you can see there, Wunder waddling his little Yordle behind out of the jungle and wanted nothing to do with that, and luckily will manage to survive.
Bailed it, Mickey.
Oh. Starting that one off. Did not hit the Baron with the damage, however.
They're scouting it because they're really pressuring the bottom inhib tower, and so that was actually just Upset making sure.
In the meantime, hey Froskurinn, do you have the drawy thing?
Oh, yeah.
You touched nothing, but there's somehow a mysterious line on the top of the screen.
Okay, you distract for a second. Just.
You can bring the circle back. The people seem to like the circle from what we learned from the Medi cast. But anyway, yeah, Bwipo, Bwipo cast. Oh, no. You're making it worse. Clear screen. All right, we're good. No, don't touch it. Leave it. It's been cleared. Anyway, that's your brief screen drawing interlude here as OG still trying to set up for the fight here. And credit to G2, they have not given over any greater advantages since OG have found this lead.
We're essentially waiting for monster objectives. Origen are the timer team. They really like the monster timers.
Yeah, this is, I think it will be spotted out. Power of the Ashe here, giving that free vision. Makes it much easier for them to contest, for them to check.
Really dangerous. Observers are doing a great job showcasing that there's no access points for G2, specifically Wunder with deep teleport flanks. It's entirely dark behind that pit, so Wunder would have to go front to back, sprinting at Origen to try to use a nice Kennen ultimate.
Important note, he does have flash.
Nukeduck, good ball placement. I actually wish I was on the circle right now. Is completely zoning Wunder away. He's controlling that choke point entirely.
Caps has a lot of space here, though. He can start to poke. OG getting low. This is going to be big. If Wunder finds a way into the back line, no, will be denied. G2 are just going to clear out the vision here. OG playing very cautiously, but I think it makes a lot of sense. You're seeing how much damage Caps is starting to do already in the game. Did immediately go for the Void Staff instead of completing that Leandry, so wants to shred through so many of the tankier members of the G2, or the OG lineup, rather.
But this is the thing, you know, I like the respect. Origen always go for kind of like the sure play, but you are then giving more and more time for Caps on this Kog'Maw. You talked about the level 16. It gives his ultimate that much more range. Origen now kind of turn their attention towards this Drake, trying to get eventually to a point where they can open up different win conditions for them. You know, at what cost does it pay to go slow? Yeah, their composition feels really good and scales decently well, but Caps is going to get there.
And I mean, all cooldowns for Senna and Orianna and Malphite is huge here, so Double Cloud definitely doesn't feel bad for OG. I think, to me, the big thing that I'd be scared of from OG is Wunder gets a Kennen ult, gets you to half health, and then Caps just gets to start executing people with the Kog'Maw ultimates. That's like your nightmare scenario. So I don't know why Alphari isn't just happy ulting one person like he was doing for so much of the game. It feels like there's this pressure on now where he either can't find the opportunity or doesn't want to, let's say, quote-unquote, waste the ultimate on finding a single target.
I think it's more so the first one. I just don't think that Alphari's necessarily had the opportunity for quite a few minutes right now. The big one that kind of pops up is that Baron fight, but we don't know necessarily what was happening at comms with Origen. Felt like, again, some of that indecisiveness about what they were going to do, and that might be the defensive Malphite ultimate in a second.
He's barely clipping him, but Alphari's not scared. He's going to continue forward. The Tahm Kench now, the semi-global power here, going to be a big deal. They've managed to turn that one back, and they burned Jankos' ultimate. Good patience comes in from Alphari. Of course, only level 14, but still feeling pretty good on that one. Mikyx on the way in. Jankos has already used his ultimate. Xerxe coming to cover as well. In the meantime, Wunder just picking up what farm he can on the bottom side. He is level 15. This is just the game where I bring up levels so much because max rank ultimates are so important.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Caps has his. Checking in on items for Perkz. Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. So has the Bork, has the Hurricane, and is now immediately having to go into armor penetration because this Malphite got so far ahead of the clock. And one of the big issues that G2's composition has is they really only have one damage threat currently, and that's Caps on the AP Kog'Maw. So we're pretty far away from Perkz being a real damage threat in these team fights until he gets more access to items, because he did have to pivot so early into penetration rather than going for, you know, the crit AD attack speed.
And additionally, one thing that, like, obviously we've seen so much support Senna recently that it's easy to forget how much damage a Senna can do, how much value she can have in these later game fights. But yeah, it's 4 items for upset. Fully stacked Muramana here. It's a lot of damage. Effectively, we were looking at the numbers earlier today. Effectively 80 base AD when you include the passive.
And the thing that's so oppressive about Origen's composition, which we saw earlier, is
there's the pick.
Perkz can't go anywhere.
But he has the flash, and that's what's going to be very important. Jactroll now has to save him, but they traded flash for ultimate. If Alphari doesn't die here, this is a net win for OG. Yeah, getting 2 sums. Obviously, we prefer to have the kill, but now Nukeduck playing very aggressive, forcing Jankos back.
I think Origen should actually be on the Baron when Nukeduck's doing that. The issue is I don't think that ward was right there. I don't know if they exactly had eyes on Caps because the control ward that he just teleported onto tells me no. But if they did have eyes that Caps was using his back,
well, Caps
maybe
is
they
in trouble now. Cataclysm comes out. Caps is going to just get shredded here. Shut down now for Upset. Nothing he could do there. Holds onto the flash here. Knows that he's doomed. Does not want to burn it.
But also just a huge mistake from Caps. That is going to be a pretty big green light from Origen to get aggressive around this Baron again.
I think he felt like once he teleported in that they didn't have any vision there and that he was okay to walk up to contest that wave. But nope, OG had not started the Baron, but now they will. G2 don't really have any chances to respond. We'll see if the hawk shot comes out from Perkz to get a bit more vision of the area. But as Alphari wanders his way into the mid lane, it's very clear that there is nothing that G2 can do to stop this one. And OG, 6K in the lead. They are set to take this game if G2 cannot find a miracle fight in their favor.
That was maybe the slowest Baron imaginable. At this point, we were talking about it earlier, one of the issues that G2's composition has is that it's very unsafe for Perkz to go anywhere to try to extend and find gold. And so he's basically depleting the jungle entirely, trying to reach those items. So if you're a G2 fan, what you're trying to do is you are trying to survive this Baron. And Origen and Origen's fans, now's the time to really apply the pressure. You can actually take a couple of risks here and look for these team fights. Even if you lose the team fight, you're not going to completely swing the game away. And if you do get a successful team fight, obviously with the Baron, you could close the game. So I think you strike while the iron is hot and why you have such a huge advantage over the enemy AD carry. Level 14 to level 16 upset versus Perkz right now.
Well, in addition to the itemization for the tankier members, both Xerxe and Alphari is so good right now. Having Adaptive Helm against the Kennen ult as well as the Kog'Maw ult, that's obviously repeated ticks of damage, mitigating so much of what they can do. Because Alphari, despite building full tank at this game, can kill either Caps or Perkz if he gets on top of them. Very difficult time for G2. You can see turtling up, keeping their members together, do not want to risk anything. Good news for them is the waves are not synced right now for OG, which means that they have time to group up as 5, to sit in this area ready to respond to any kind of engage coming in from OG.
And that's what Alphari is actually trying to do right now. Whenever you are pushing with Baron and you let the wave hit into an incoming minion wave, that's how you try to get it slower down so you can time these waves so they hit at the same point. So you're pressuring multiple points on the map.
But also, AP Kog'Maw just obliterates waves even with the power Baron buff. But Perkz might be first on the list here. Upset going to chase forward, which will make that a little bit easier as Perkz zooms his way out of that one.
Huge damage coming out of Senna right now. You just saw that giant bite taken out of Perkz. And Origen are really trying to apply the pressure and the gas. You know, I was kind of curious how slow they would take this, but that was a very aggressive attempted dive on Perkz.
And I like how far forward we can see Upset stepping, knowing that he has the Devour to keep him safe. He just wants to keep poking down, but he has now been caught out. Devour burned. If G2 find the re-engage here, it could mean trouble. Tahm Kench, of course, slowing himself means it's that much easier to connect any kind of damage. But Wunder is essentially tickling Alphari. Just now has the Void Staff, would have to fully commit if he really wants to take anything away from that Malphite health bar, but it is just not worth it. So Xerxe is going to ferry in a wave in the mid lane. Now looking at that mid lane inhib tower. Alphari will break an inhib in the bottom side, and OG are very much set to close the game here. Commanding performance from them in the mid game after what was a pretty slow early game.
Yeah, G2's effective carries right now, and Kennen and Kog'Maw just won't do damage to Alphari at this point. And now he's trying to set up, finding a potential R here. Caps is in big trouble.
Yes, he most certainly is.
He has flash.
Big ult. The sidestep is there. Caps, good patience, doesn't give it up.
But also, Alphari didn't pressure it at all.
No, and similarly, Upset is just stepping so far forward because he has no reason to be afraid. Wunder has to commit a flash to get on top of him, so he can just play this one out nice and slow, use that Glacial to keep people at an arm's length, and just keep waiting for Rapid Fire Cannon to be back up so he can poke. Of course, while they're grouped up, while they're fighting in the base like this, they are at the whim of Caps and this poke damage coming down. Eyes on Alphari, that ult can be massive, as can the Orianna. Nukeduck waiting over the wall. He is going to catch Wunder. The follow from Alphari is clean. The exhaust comes down. They have to make it out, and they manage to take down the Kennen before he can ult. He died with flash available, and that most certainly should be the fight, but the damage from Caps is disgusting. Upset now in trouble. Caps shredding through. OG pushing into the base. They know it's about PvE. They do not want to fight the members of G2. Caps is doing far too much damage, but OG still winning the day for now.
Upset has teleport. He's actually just going to go back, heal, teleport back in. I think Origen are going to continue to try to suffocate G2 out here.
Caps is going to burn through his mana pool very quickly if he keeps trying to use the Bio Arcane Barrage. Cost, of course, goes up the more and more, balances out the low cooldown. Has to be careful here, has to wait, has to bide his time, needs to clear these waves, but Upset continuing to step forward. Banshee's now procced for Nukeduck, ult not available for Perkz. Jankos has his. Maybe they can try to get something kicked off, but Alphari simply too tanky. Cap's taking a lot of damage, finally uses the flash, but Alphari, he's got that ult back up. Thank you, Cloud Soul. But now Nukeduck caught behind enemy lines, the Kog'Maw passive value being maximized, but it just does not matter. The rest of OG are now descending. They need to buy space for Perkz, but no, OG will not take the fight. They will take the game, they will take the Nexus, and they will take down G2 Esports in style.
Big hugs there from Upset and Jactroll on the very end. But of course, this man closest to you on screen, Alphari, I think is really the star. Why is he wearing Xerxe's jersey? Must have been laundry day.
It was laundry day. I mean, yeah, fantastic performance. That Malphite ruined this game for both Perkz and Caps, and you can see how much damage the AP Kog'Maw did there in those last fights, but Caps 2-3 more ultimates on key targets, they could have won that fight, but it simply was not enough. OG were too far ahead, and they found their openings, they found their opportunities when they mattered most, and sadly for G2, that Kennen in the top side just did not have the impact that it needed to up against the Malphite.
And think about how, like, it was such a quintessential controlled end from Origen that they were in the base to get 2 Malphite ultimates off. Like, that is
also double Cloud with a Malphite.
That is quintessential Origen play right there, but very nicely done from the team.
Super well executed. Yeah, I was more critical in the early game, but mid-game to late game, they knew when they were strong, they made it work, and that's what you want to see from Origen. Of course, your key player of the game on Twitter, Alphari, Nukeduck, Jactroll. As much as I love seeing Jactroll back and doing well, I think we all know it's Alphari. All right, that's ultimately what it's about. Of course, interesting overall. Very exciting game, exciting day of games. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we're going to hear soon from Jactroll before it's time for PGL with Gyoto. So if you want more OG, we've got more than enough for you. Do not miss it.
And welcome back to the LEC. I'm Medic. I'm joined here by Jactroll. Congratulations on your first win with Origen, Jactroll. How does it feel?
Hello. Well, it's not my first win of the split, but even the
first win with Origen
in that year.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's wonderful feeling, and I'm very happy to be back.
Understandably, yeah. Welcome back. It was a little bit of a shock, I think, to a lot of people that you were picked up by Origen sort of in the middle of the split like this. Can you sort of talk me through how that decision ended up happening?
Well, I knew that I can't replay games in Vitality because they went all in with Labrov. And for me, it's a funny story because I'm in the middle of moving out to Poland from my apartment in Berlin. And then I was approached by Origen to join them in the team. And everything happened so quickly, and it was a shock for me because I was pretty sure that I'm not gonna play any game until the end of this year. So I was just prepared to grind solo queue and wait for offers for next year. But well,
yeah,
I was a bit lucky.
I mean, there's luck, there's skill, there's, you know, all of these things always combine into this sort of decision-making process. And obviously, it's great to have you back in the league. Can you talk to me a little bit about what your role is on Origen? Because today we saw you playing Tahm Kench, which is a champion we've seen Destiny play in the past. But is there something that you are bringing that's new to this team that's helping Origen and, I mean, help them win today?
Well, the most important thing that I bring is shot calling part. In Vitality, it didn't really work out for me because in this team, actually, everyone listens, understands, and follow my calls. So the game is much easier to play in this way.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have that chemistry in the team. And that's the main difference I think I bring between me and Destiny, because I'm decisive and the player that has ability to shot call.
Okay. That's really interesting, because usually you'd expect someone who's coming into a team as a newer player, or like a new player for the team, to be one of the quieter voices, like someone who is, you have to work out how to play with your teammates and how to adapt to that. So how do you think the team has adapted so quickly to you being one of the main voices there? Is there something special they've done, or are they just very willing to listen to you?
From the first scrims I played with them, I was very communicative, and I noticed that they have some lack in macro knowledge, and I pretty much taught them a bit how to play the game in my perception.
Okay.
And once they understood my point of view, they listen and they follow my calls, and this is how we play out the game in most ways. But also everyone in the team talks, but I think I bring the most decisiveness and calls.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it's really good to hear about, like, not just what we see on the Rift, but what you're actually bringing to the team behind the scenes. So thanks a ton for sharing this. Obviously, the game against G2 is a big stepping point for you guys. Being able to pick up a win like this, going to 5-5 in the season is great. But what are your expectations for the rest of the season with Origen? Are you looking again at being able to make it into the top 3, or would a middle-of-the-pack playoffs run be best for you guys?
I would lie to you if I would tell I have different ambitions than winning LEC and going to Worlds, but still a long path to achieve.
Okay.
So we take step by step, and we're gonna challenge Misfits tomorrow. And I think from this point onwards, we'll be in very good spot in the race for playoffs.
Yeah.
And we're gonna work on from that point onwards. But I'm pretty confident we're gonna make it to playoffs, and we're gonna be much scarier team in best of 5 than in best of 1.
I'm really looking forward to it. Is there anything you want to say to the LEC fans, perhaps some of them seeing you for the first time, or to Origen fans seeing you play for their team for the first time?
Just keep an eye for Lane Kingdom with me and Upset, and Chuko for my Polish. They'll know what I mean by
I'm
that.
sure they'll all know what that means. Thank you so much for joining me, Jactroll. We're going to hand it over to a quick break before PGL with Andre Giotto, Shocks and a Quick Shot.